What's up, Buttercup? Welcome back to my channel. Today's book review is Camp Damascus by Chuck Tingle. Love the cover. This is Chuck's first traditionally published book, but he is well known by his funny and cute erotica self-published books. So he's considered a hybrid writer, and we love to see that. We love to see success. I don't read erotica, but I do follow him on Goodreads and Facebook, and he's a gem. So when I heard that he was going to publish a horror novel, well, obviously I gotta pick it up, and I did. Well, okay, this was gifted to me by Patrick, so I accepted the gift, therefore I picked it up. Thank you so much, Patrick. I really do love this cover. It is bright red and orange, and it really stands out. And the bugs coming out of Rose's mouth is creepy but very relevant. And I'm assuming it's Rose because Rose is the main character and that's who we follow. Can you see that? At first, when you look at it, you don't think that it's someone's mouth. Like for a hot minute, I thought it was a mountain. Don't ask questions. I just thought it was a mountain with butterflies coming out of the mountain. Yeah, but then you look a little closer and we're here. We got it now. So I gave this book 4 stars and I do recommend it, but before going into the review and the details of this novel, let's do a blurb overview. Because I must say, the publisher was trying to go for an open-ended, pull you in, vague blurb for some reason, maybe because Chuck is really focusing on something completely different than his erotica. This is clearly not erotica, but maybe they just wanted to do something different than his other books. I don't know, but the blurb's too vague. It's really too vague. It doesn't share what the book is actually about. So let me read the blurb. It's really short, and then we'll get into what the book is really about and how that has kind of thrown people off. Something is wrong in Neverton, Montana, and that something isn't me. Welcome to a God-fearing community with a heart of gold. Nestled high up in the mountains is Camp Damascus, the self-proclaimed most effective gay conversion camp in the country. Here, a life free of sin awaits, but the secret behind that success is anything but holy. From Chuck Tingle, beloved internet icon, comes a searing and earnest horror debut about the demons the queer community faces in this country, the price of keeping secrets, and finding the courage to burn it all down. Yeah, that was the blurb. It's the same on Goodreads and Amazon. I would actually say that's extremely vague. It does not tell what the book is about. You literally have to go in and read it and start figuring out what's going on, and you would be surprised by, the first couple of chapters, because here's the thing. I, and many others, thought that the main character, Rose, is going to and dismantling a gay conversion camp that also has demons involved. So color me very surprised that it didn't go that way. About page 50, this is not the book that I'm thinking of. I'm also, actively reading, and I knew the twist with the demons and what actually was happening. So you expect something different from the blurb, and I guess what other people were guessing was the book. Like, I thought, as they were marketing it online, that it was Rose being forced into a gay conversion camp, and then she's dismantling it from the inside. But that's not the case. That is not the case. And therefore, I have seen people saying that they were disappointed. Now, a lot of them did rate it pretty high, but there is some odd choice with the publisher on why they marketed it that way and why the blurb is so vague, because you could read into that whole just going to the gay conversion camp in Montana and dismantling it from the inside, and that's like the whole horror vibe, also with demons and stuff that Rose, you know, has to fight against. Yeah, like with that blurb, you could interpret it like that, but that's not it. So I want to tell people that up front, that's not the book that you're getting. But I don't want anyone to blame Chuck, because this is traditionally published. He didn't write up that blurb. So I don't know who decided to make it so vague and do that marketing, but yeah, it's not Chuck, so I am not blaming Chuck whatsoever. What you are actually getting with teeny spoilers, because I think at least let's set it up. I'm not going to go deep into it, but let's set it up. Rose, the main character, is an only child, and she is living in a very small town in Montana that's basically a cult town, okay, focused on a Christian prophet. And how that town makes money is from Camp Damascus, which is the gay conversion camp that the prophet helps fund and run. It is apparently 100% success rate. How do they do it? By the grace of God, apparently. So this camp is renowned throughout the world, and that's how the prophet makes money and how the town thrives, even though, like, you can't do jack shit because everything's a sin. You see what I'm saying? Yeah, it's an interesting setup, because she, in the first chapter, she's at home and she is just hanging out. At first I was like, oh, so we're going to get into, like, she does something and then her parents send her to Camp Damascus because it's down the street. Nope. You're not seeing any of that. You're actually in first person present tense as Rose. You know, you're as Rose, and you're going about your life, and things are weird. Things are not making sense, but why? And then she throws up bugs. That's kind of where everything just falls apart. And I'm not going to go into anything else, but that's the first couple of chapters. And so that might be jarring for some people because, you know, like I said before, it was kind of marketed, or at least indirectly, you know, it was directly marketed, not so great. Moving on. Why did I give it 4 stars? It's because, even with all that, I accepted that that's not, the story is different. New story, interesting story. Okay, we took a different turn from what I was expecting and what I was told. By page 50, like I said, I figured out the twist, and I figured out the connections to the demons that are scattered around in this novel. And so already figured out that plot. So then I was on the ride for how do we get to the end? And what is Rose going to do regarding the twist? Like, I can figure out the twist. That doesn't necessarily mean I can figure out how the character gets there, right? So that was still a bit up in the air. I had ideas. Some of them were accurate that I was just thinking of. Others were not. At least there's that, right? I was surprised quite a few times, and I like that. I appreciated the found family trope and Rose's connection to her found family, who also went through terrible things at Camp Damascus. This book heavily centers on religious trauma. If you didn't already notice, yes, it is. Very focused on religious trauma, how to accept that you've gone through religious trauma, and how to overcome it and move forward with your life. and with love. There's a happy ending at the end of the novel, which is rare for horror novels. I think this isn't a typical horror novel, and this might be very uncomfortable, but also healing for those who went through religious, Christian, specifically, trauma. So please be advised that it can be at least uncomfortable, if not, depending on your experience, outright traumatizing. However, the underlying message is positive and full of love by the end of the novel, because it's about forgiveness in some form or another, acceptance, and love. Chuck could have easily trashed all religions and bundled all Christians together, but he did not. Chuck is very specific in who he's showing these disgusting people as and their cult members, and you could point out quite a few different Christian sects that do this. And so he's not saying it's every single Christian. It's very specific, and even in this novel, which I was kind of surprised, but also props to Chuck, there is, I forget the character, it might be Rose. There is a character that says, not all Christians believe this, because this is psychotic and this is a cult, and we're separating them. Though Rose does not want to go into a church ever again. Completely understands. She doesn't particularly believe in God, but she realizes, well, there's demons, so, you know, damn, what am I supposed to do with that? Maybe there's a logical explanation, even though pretty magical, like what's going on here? And that is something that is a journey. Of course it's a journey. And then she has her other friend, Saul, and there's also Willow, found family. I spoiled it, whatever, it's fine. Saul, who is religious, and he does go to church, a Christian church. I think it's not denominational though, and it's small. And his argument, at least in this book where demons are real, he says there's demons, but there's also God, and the church that I go to doesn't do this, would never do that. They don't like Camp Damascus, and they want nothing to do with the cult and all that stuff. And Rose is going through things, just like every single person who has religious trauma based on their gender or sexuality reading this would go through. Some would be like Willow, some would be like Rose, some would be like Saul, or it's just like a mix of all three of them. Absolutely acceptable. I think that's why Chuck wrote them each differently, like a different reaction to their trauma, because no one person is going to react the same to trauma. There are similarities, of course, but it's not going to be the same. And Chuck is not trying to convert anyone, because he's a very kind and respectful and loving person, so he's not trying to make you an agnostic or atheist with this book, and he's not even trying to make you a Christian with this book. He is talking about religious trauma, and any type of religious trauma is trauma. That is the overlying theme, and connected to that is, how do you love, how do you accept, and how do you forgive? So I definitely recommend this novel, though please go in just aware about the topics at hand, and I mentioned a bunch of them. If you are thinking you might not be able to handle it at this time, I'm sure Chuck will absolutely understand, and just give yourself a little bit of time and grace and compassion, and pick this up a little bit later on. But I think that it would be very healing for many people. I grew up neo-pagan. I was surrounded by all types of religions and spiritual practices, so I don't have that specific religious trauma. But I did see quite a few people on Amazon and Goodreads say that it was traumatizing but also healing. So just keep that in mind. Thank you so much for watching my book review on Camp Damascus by Chuck Tingle. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.